Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer and I'm here today, Saturday, May 13th, to do my weekly, this is my weekly horoscopes where the angels give us advice for traversing the transits that are coming up the week ahead. I normally do this at 11 a.m. Pacific time, but tomorrow is Mother's Day here in the United States. So I am going to take the day off from the live and also to celebrate and honor Small Wildflowers, as she is the mother in our tribe and my right-hand person, and I want to make sure that she is taking some time for herself to spend with the family. I also want to mention, as I did in the live last week, that Small Wildflowers is having a little bit of a concern with her granddaughter. I'm calling her Wee Wildflowers. She's going through some testing. She's not been feeling herself. So I would ask you to put out your prayers for her family, for the well-being of everybody, and that they get back on track ASAP. Okay, so now that I've said that, what I'm going to do, also, sorry, for those of you that are new, these horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So I'm going to be talking about Aries Rising, Taurus Rising. I think the next most influential planet is really your moon. So I would check your moon sign and then your sun sign. I feel as if our rising sign very much indicates our perception, how we view the world. Our moon is how we emotionally operate. And these two things are very key to our manifestation in the physical world, which is what our sun is, the projection of ourselves out into the physical world. Also, these are based on whole sign Western astrology. If I was doing a personal chart for you, I would look at it in Placidus, because I feel like the house structure tells me a lot, as well as the degrees, which I talk about a lot on my show here. So we're going to talk about some significant stuff coming up this week. We have Mercury turning direct tomorrow. So Mercury is stationing at 5 degrees of Taurus and will take a few minutes before Mercury starts to actually get some momentum moving forward. This is this 3-week period to me felt a little bit different as a Mercury retrograde, because the moon was conjunct Mercury as Mercury went retrograde at 1:34 a.m. on whatever day that was. I don't quite recall, but I do recall the time because I looked it up. And it seemed very interesting to me that the moon was going to be conjunct Mercury, giving me 3-week period of time to really evaluate, to rest, to look at how I'm nurturing my emotional body. Now, this week, we also have a new moon in Taurus. This moon is at 28 degrees. The 28th degree is the Cancerian degree ruled by the moon. We had in in October of 2022, we started a series of 7 full moons, first in the Aries energy at 16 degrees Cancer. So this series of 7 full moons was illuminating various environments or dynamics within my human life where I get to practice more self-care, trusting my emotional body, my inner knowing, my intuition, all things ruled by the moon. I think this is very, very powerful because the moon has flipped its script. When we had the 2 new moons in Aries, the sign of self, now we started the full moon axis in Aries. So this is, or I don't want to say axis, but the journey of the 7 full moons started in Aries. So this is really a reevaluation and a reclaiming of our inherent power and our co-creation. So we're going to see this new moon at the 28th degree of Taurus. This is a Cancer degree. And for me, not all the signs have 3 different degrees that refer to them. Just the first 5 houses. And I think that's interesting because the 6th house is where we start our service to others. So when we look at the 28th degree of Cancer, we are looking at it from a more mature and seasoned point of view. We're being called upon in those chapters to master the energy. Now, here it's not about containing your emotions, it's about honoring your emotions. It's about being aware of an energy that doesn't serve anybody when you are giving up or suffering in some way, to any extent that is continuous. A little bit of suffering or a little bit of discomfort is good because it defines what we want and what we don't want. But any sort of repetitive long-term energy that direction is not really supporting us and supporting why the soul comes to this earthly experience. So this new moon in Taurus will be the first new moon that precedes a full moon. We normally get the new moon and then the full moon, but for the next year, I believe until the next Capricorn season, we are going to have the full moon, an illumination before we plant our seeds in the new moon. So this new moon in Taurus is about your resources. It's about your comfort. It's about how you feed yourself, how you fuel yourself, how you build your world, because Taurus is a builder. We kind of think of Taurus as a farmer. It's a cultivator. It's willing to go down the journey of gestation is the way I want to put it. So this is very powerful to me. We also see Jupiter entering Taurus on the 16th. This is Pacific time. I went backwards because, meaning I'm going back in time because I wanted to talk about the moons in relation to this series that we've been having. When Jupiter enters Taurus at 0 degrees, it's going to make a square to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. And those of you that have watched my channel have heard this before, so bear with me. But for those of you that are new, my perception of a square is where I have an old patterned part of myself, a reactionary part of myself that is almost a default. And then I have this awareness of new things I want to implement, new ways of being that serve my happiness in a better way or a more efficient way. And there's a bit of an argument between the two sides. That's a tense conversation, the square. And so here I'm sort of having to really assert some consciousness not to default one way or the other, creating tension with me. This feels very powerful because Pluto is asking for transformation and Jupiter is wanting to expand the Taurus energy, but not anchored into an old way of believing, more supporting a new way of believing, a new way of operating, a new way, a more hopeful way of operating. So I think this is very, very powerful. The nodes squaring Pluto is going to go on for quite some time. Pluto obviously is a slow-moving planet. And as the nodes move into the Aries Libra axis and Pluto is hanging out at the last degrees of Capricorn, we're going to continue to see that square. But what also happens is a grand fixed square. And I kind of sometimes call it a cross, so bear with me if I inadvertently speak, but as Mars moves into opposition with Pluto, and then Venus will do the same thing, there's going to be some very bridge building or bridge burning conversations. And some of those bridges that burn might need to burn. And I say that because at some point when we have tried to go back into a situation and there is not a willingness to see another's point of view, there's nowhere left to move. And in the fixed energy, which this is Pluto in Aquarius, Mars in Leo, and soon to be Venus in Leo, and then the nodes up in the Taurus Scorpio axis. Nobody wants to move. It's almost like, I'll move when you move. No, I'll move when you move. No, I'll move when you move. I'm trying to compromise with you, but I'm not moving until you move. That's the energy. So it's really, really annoying. So this is an opportunity to be the bridge builder. Now, randomly, I don't know what made me look at this, but as Jupiter moved into Taurus, knowing it was happening this week, I went to look at my little cheat sheet for the retrogrades, and I realized that Jupiter will retrograde at the exact degrees that Mercury just got done retrograding, meaning in September, Jupiter is going to retrograde in Taurus from 15 to 5 degrees. this feels like there's going to be a real reclaiming of my new beliefs and a reevaluation during Jupiter's time, and an opportunity to do even a deeper cleanse in that area, meaning a deeper review, a deeper reevaluation, and a real opportunity to then, when Jupiter moves forward again, to expand and to move into those new directions. So it's a very big week, but it's a week that's starting to tee up energies. We're getting a lot of glimpses in the beginning of 2023, and much of this energy is going to be implemented in 2024 and on. So now I'm going to start my readings. I'm going to do one tarot card for each sign, and then an angel spread. We're going to start with Taurus, as it's your birthday month, and then move through the zodiac. We're talking about Taurus Rising, Taurus Moon, Taurus Sun. And if you have a stellium in Taurus, this is a very, very powerful next year for you. It's a powerful year for every planet in Taurus. So if your Mercury is in there, pay attention, because this is an opportunity to really I want to double down on myself right now. I want to put all my chips in and think it's a good time to bet on you, because Jupiter is going to bring bounty. So our first tarot card, or our tarot card for Taurus, is the Queen of Wands. She's looking out to her future. She's feeling passion. She's feeling inspired. She's feeling a bit of fire. And she's also learned about the boundaries that she wants. And it's interesting because we talk about Jupiter's expansion, but with Mars moving into Leo, Venus will spend 4 months in Leo. I believe that for my Tauruses, this is really about the opposition that is coming up, and that very tense conversation that will continue as we see Mercury will eventually get there, but for some reason, by the time Mercury gets into that opposition with Pluto, it doesn't feel quite as jarring as Mars's and then Venus, because Mars feels a little bit like a little sassy right now, as if it's saying to Pluto, "What do you know?" And Pluto's going, "I know a lot. I know a lot deeper than you think I know." Okay, so let's look and see. Meaning this for my Tauruses. If you have, something you're excited about building, it's about looking at the platform twice and making sure that it's really, truly supporting a joyous energy and not your wallet or your, getting your bills paid, or your old age, having enough money in the bank, because there is a very good possibility that a lot of these planetary activities will affect the economy around the world, and the things that we have thought would be there may not always be there. So it's more about your ability to trust inside, and also to trust the divine laws of the universe. So as you're aligned to your version of you, as you're aligned to the version of your life that you want to live, the universe will bring the components regardless of the outside influences, the outside environments. That is divine law. Most humans do not employ that divine law, so they look at what they're experiencing and they call that real. All right, Taurus, our first angel is Mystique. Keep charging ahead, expect miracles. The second is Archangel Raphael, giving an epiphany. Daniel is the angel of marriage, but also history and partnerships. And Archangel Uriel is here, releasing frustration and potential anger. All right. Mystique is being joined by the Joy card. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the Baird. Daniel is being joined by the Perception card. And Archangel Uriel is being joined by the High Priestess. I want to offer this for my Tauruses because I'm a Taurus moon, so I absolutely get the Taurus energy. I feel very much that there is a reconciliation somewhere about how you, whatever your role is within your personal I want to say your family dynamic, your close friend circle, your friend family dynamic, because I feel as if there is an opportunity for you to divine wisdom out of a rocky road. And if Uranus has been interrupting things, because I'll tell you, when Uranus was going over my rising sign, it created upsets, but it also liberated me from working for other people. But it wasn't without its disruption, arguments, and a little bit of ill will for a while, because Mystique is telling you to keep charging ahead towards what brings you joy, what brings you personal happiness, what is long-term on some level, so that you can look to your future with more passion, more excitement, more inspiration. I feel like the sunflowers on this card are really significant because they grow tall. They rise above the fray, and they obviously look like the sun. So I think that your dreams are growing tall, and your job is to keep your eye on the prize of what will be versus what has been. Because Archangel Raphael is giving you a literally Mercury retrograde epiphany that is telling you right now, if I keep telling the old story, if I keep telling the old story, it's not going to change. So now I'm going to start to tell a new story, because the bird also represents the enchantment of storytelling, poetry, myth, and music. Here we see Daniel in the angel's advice and the perception card. And the perception card feels very much as if it is giving me a new beginning, because I'm now realizing that whatever has been is the very manure that made my garden grow. I feel as if here there is this sort of feeling of understanding many times that a frustration can be a launching pad, because when I look here and I see Archangel Uriel, I don't actually think you're currently frustrated. I think you've been frustrated, or you may have been, holding on to some old story. And now I think you're starting to come from a new place. The High Priestess is about discernment. And I can't help but notice how buxom she is here, which is all about coming from your heart, trusting that the nourishment, this is the part of the female body that actually nourishes the child when the child cannot nourish itself. So your discernment will nourish you and help squelch some of your frustrations as you keep your eye to the future. And the future being in every moment. The Queen of Wands also represents the Leo energy very much so. So personal pleasure, fun, the only sign in the zodiac that is about really you. Even though we say Aries is about you and about the self, it's the initial discovery of the physical self. And once it goes to those first four houses, it has determined its personal joys and pleasures. And this is about extracting them and living them and anchoring them. Okay, let's go on to our Geminis, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. All right. For our Geminis, the tarot card is the Four of Wands. Clearly, you can see them celebrating. This is a lush card. There is bounty. The grapes are there. There are people mulling around in the background. Let's look and see, because this new moon could very much bring things to celebrate. It is a Taurus new moon that could bring something into the physical experience. And I want to offer this too, because I have observed through the transits that some people in the media, celebrities, experience like a disruption. I'll see a Pluto square, Pluto opposition, and then on the back side of that disruption, they have had a life that they never dreamt they could have had before. So let's look, Gemini. Because I want to focus you towards what works for you, not what works against you, or what is working for you, or what brings you, again, happiness. You're always going to be a little bit of a deliberator, look at both sides of things, the twins. All right, Gemini, our first angel is Rosetta. The second is Bethany. The third is Francesca. And the final is Desiree. Rosetta is being joined by the Bear. Bethany is being joined by the Fear card. Francesca is being joined by the Horse. And Desiree is being joined by the Butterfly. Okay, so Rosetta talks about parenting, having children, teaching children. And it could be true, but many of you are beyond that stage, or you didn't engage in that stage. So when I'm talking to a large group of people, I really think this is about the inner child. And there we have the Baird. And I feel like what I was just feeling with this Four of Wands. The wands represent fire, passion, creativity. I feel as if my Geminis are sort of being tasked in this moment. If you are truly going to take care of those that you love, your children, your grandchildren, the best way to teach them is to honor your inner child and start to tell a more enchanted story of the possibilities. Almost every big win in my life was preceded by what appeared to be a big loss. I mean, I could tell you guys some personal stories, but people that were involved would be traumatized by me exposing their darkness. But I will tell you that at a very young age, I experienced a betrayal that ended up empowering me in a way that changed my life for the better. But initially, the betrayal was so deep and so dark that I didn't think I would come out of it. So I don't think that's what you're experiencing right in this moment. But you had Mars in your first house for 7 months, and you may still feel a little bit of shell shock as Mars is traversing your second house that rules your family history and rules money. So here, I really feel as if this is an opportunity for you to start to focus in on what you want, start to even celebrate that a bit by, fostering it, doing one little baby step towards whatever it is that brings ease and comfort and joy and a sense of being cradled in the womb of the world or the womb of the universe. Because in the opportunity or the obstacle is Bethany, about self-care, and there's the Fear card. And it made me feel as if you're not self-caring, that your fears are driving you maybe a little bit towards trying to fix something or trying to course correct something. Because Francesca in the angel's advice is saying, what do you visualize? Negativity will block your progress. Well, maybe it's not negativity, but if we're focused on the old, the family story, we're focused on the challenge, we sometimes cannot see the solution. We need to step away from it so that we get some perception. The Horse very much can feel very Sagittarian to me, but it's also a movement card. Man's very, as far as I know, first automobile was the horse. When they got on the horse, it allowed them to go greater distances. Because Desiree is saying that you, with your eyes, Gemini, cannot see things. You'll go back and forth, but there is something happening that you cannot see with your eyes. You can only feel the transformation, and there is a beauty to be had through that transformation because there is celebration. So now let's just think about the transits. Pluto is squaring the nodes. So wherever that energy is in your chart, wherever Taurus and Scorpio are, wherever Aquarius is, I can't remember off the top of my head right now because that's too much math for me, but so kind of think of that as the nodes are focal, the focal point is on Aquarius. Dang it, now I feel like I need to think what that is. But anyway, what is going on? Where have you called forth transformation? Where have you wanted something to move forward? And your focus on how that feels versus the road to get there will start to usher in something that you can't see. I don't think that the butterfly or the caterpillar has any sight through the whole transformation. You're in a dark little place, things are decomposing and recomposing, and there's no conscious thought that can change that process for the caterpillar. So this is really a different place of thinking that everything that's happening is working for you. The universe is working for you. All right, let's go on to our Cancers. Rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Your tarot card is the Knight of Cups. Now, this is an ease of love. This is really, you know, Cancer. This cup energy is your energy. There's a mercurial thing when I look at his helmet and I see those wings, and I'm thinking, let's look and see, because we're going to cross over this little river of emotions. Right now, things may appear a little dry. Please don't pay attention to my manicure or lack thereof. I'm having challenges with my fingers lately. My hands are aging rapidly. I feel arthritis. I'm not saying that out loud. Knock, knock. All right. The Knight of Cups of Love. Oh, let's see. Our first angel is Archangel Uriel, Cancer. The second is Rochelle. The third is Mystique. And the final is Indriel. This new moon in Taurus, Venus rules partnerships too. Taurus is ruled by Venus. You don't just have to have activity in your seventh house to start a partnership or to feel partnership. And we know Venus is going to move into Leo. That's your second house. I can do that math. Okay. Archangel Uriel is being joined by the Perception card. Rochelle is being joined by the Wealth card. Mystique is being joined by the Frog. And Indriel is being joined by the Butterfly. My Cancers, I'm telling you, I have felt for such a while that you guys are really craving love, wanting to be in relationships, really just sort of, you know, that warm, fuzzy, I can be me place with my peeps, my tribe, and all the Hallmark kind of stuff. Okay, maybe it's a little cheesy and corny, but I think it's true, and I think it's a very noble and valiant dynamic and experience to want to have. So we see this knight not only has mercurial wings, he also has little fishes on his garb, and he has wings on his feet. I think for my Cancers right now, I think this is a little bit about being light on your feet. I feel like this is an opportunity for you, because of the retrograde Mercury, an opportunity to really review about your perception of love. And if you're being frustrated because of the markers, I'm not married, my eggs are dying, you know, I'll never meet anyone again because I'm in my late 50s, whatever the story is that story really fair to you, or is it not? Because I feel Archangel Uriel is asking you to look at your perception and lighten up a little bit potentially, because I think there's things going on for you that you can't see. And I think that's a big opportunity for Cancer, not a lesson, not a, you know, some sort of stumbling block. But one of the challenges for Cancer is trusting your instincts, is feeling secure. You know, the crab tends to crawl to the side and is worried because the water's going to come, bam, and slam you up against a rock. But here, your Jupiterian wealth comes from trusting your heart, from, you know, that inner knowing. How could I want love so much? Even if you're already in a relationship or you're already in a dynamic, the energy and the exchange Mars has been going through Cancer might be feeling a little icky right now. But this is temporary, situational. There is cleanup coming, okay? Mystique is saying to keep charging ahead. We're coming out of the dark and going into the light. The Frog is leaping off of this lily pad and is about to move somewhere new. And now, my Cancers, there's beauty in this blossoming. And it brings you closer to your inner knowing and trust, because at the whole time you've been frustrated, the whole time you've been like, this should have happened already. That's what I feel like, it's a timing thing. And now you're going to be like, I always knew this was going to happen. I always knew this was going to happen. So rather than wait to see it, to adopt that attitude, I think it's about adopting it now as you're on your journey and moving closer and closer to receiving and giving your cup of love. Okay, on to our Leos. What a summer it's going to be. Because I think there's a lot of really good opportunities during all of this energy. I'm not going to look at it at an opposition as something that's fighting against me. I'm going to start to think of it as a bridge that's bringing me an opportunity. And, I personally don't like heights. I personally am not a very good swimmer. So going over a bridge can bring me anxiety and fear. But the inner knowing that what's on the other side of the bridge is really what is so fun, is part of the challenge of the opposition. So Leo, let's look at your tarot card. Seven of Pentacles, very much a card of assessing a situation, of looking and saying, I've worked so hard to grow all these pentacles. What do I want to do with them? Do I actually want to harvest them, or would it be best for me to continue to let them grow on the vine for now? Let's see. The human is predisposed to action, and Leo is predisposed to leadership and to, in some cases, taking an action that others might perceive one way, and yet it could be a big smokescreen as to what's really true underneath. Because the way I'm looking at this, it feels as if there's bounty, and then there's bigger bounty. It almost, like the Seven of Pentacles, almost feels as if I'm looking at it and going, well, I could cash these all in now and I'd get $5 a bushel. But if I let them grow for another 2 weeks, I'll get $10 a bushel. I don't know why I want to put it that way. All right, first we have the angel Sonia. Then we have the angel Chantal. Then we have Mystique and Rochelle. Woo, romance. Let's see. Because maybe you're contemplating a relationship. It could be. Venus is going to move into your house. Mars is going to move in there. Could create tension. There's Sonia and the mystery, which is about choice. We have Chantal and Merlin. We have Mystique and the High Priestess. We have Rochelle and the protection card. I think that there is the potential here that Leo is looking at their relationships. Pluto would be in your 7th house. I happen to know that. I can do that math. So you may be really thinking about your individual voice, how you're liberated in relationship, or want to be liberated, or you want a relationship that allows you your individual genius and expression, and also focuses in on bigger, broader concepts. Because I think you have a lot of choices here, and Sonia is representing taking the time to allow spirit to help inspire your choices. I've become more brave in understanding that when I feel frustrated or thwarted, or I feel pinched, or even sometimes I feel a little bit milked, as if I can go into this little weird Aries resentment pity party thing. And what I've been practicing now is, when I feel that starting to bubble up, I go take a walk and I ask spirit to inspire my eyes and my ears so that I can see things differently. And I'm blessed because there's enough wildlife around me for spirit to use a lot of the different animal totems to give me information. But it's my job. So I think for my Leos, there's a bit of assessing to be done, and spirit trying to help you make that choice from a different perception, rather than the fixed energy that you may have been walking more naturally. Because there is alchemy, justice, and balance. And Merlin here, the alchemy card, is really very similar to that piece of coal that goes into that pressurized situation to become a diamond. And there is Chantal saying there will either be reignition in an existing relationship, or a new relationship will start. And this could be, for those of you that are single, because this idea that Aquarius is in your 7th house, your relationship could be very electric and very exciting, because Mystique is telling you to keep charging ahead. And in some ways, the High Priestess is even doubling down on this 7 energy of introspection, reflection, observation. Do I want to make an actual move? Because she's representing discernment. And this is representing to charge ahead towards what it is you want from the deepest place of your heart, not a superficial place, because Rochelle is talking about your heart. And this is where prosperity comes. And then we have the protection card. And the protection card is a 38, which reduces down to an 11, which is the Aquarian house of individuality. It is a house that naturally opposes you, but there's that bridge to be built. So I feel like for my Leos, that this week during this Mercury starting to go direct, stationing, kind of sitting in the sky for a minute, the nodes making this, tense conversation with Pluto, with Mars about to enter your first house and, create sort of this call for transformation. But the transformation is not about anybody else but you. And are you willing to be brave? Are you willing to be courageous and what your heart wants, not what it thinks it can get? And I think relationship, if that's indeed what you want, then the depths of that relationship, the connectedness that you want in that relationship gets to be mulled over and contemplated versus the challenges to getting it. Okay. On to our Virgos, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. For our Virgos, we have this is a Virgonian energy for me. We have the Hermit. Your ruling planet has been retrograde. Your ruling planet is stationing. And I think that this is really a time to sort of allow for the contemplation that brings illumination. And there's something very Saturnian here, because, when I look at this older wise man and I think about the idea that Pisces is your opposing planet, or your opposing sign, I'm sorry, and that Saturn is traversing the first 7 degrees of Pisces. So those of you that have planets, personal planets, within the 0 to 7 degrees, this initial Saturn energy may feel very restricting, bringing up old stories, old history. I have this idea with Saturn, because I love Saturn. I don't know why I love Saturn, because Saturn's given me a lot of grief over the years, but I do love him nonetheless. Because every time I experience a significant Saturn return, there's always a retrograde. So I end up, feeling it first off when it's going direct, almost like a tidal wave of awareness. And then the retrograde gives me an opportunity to start to contemplate how to turn it into a tool to build with. Capricorn is a builder, Saturn's a builder. And by the time the planet moves forward, I'm ready to garnish the reward that Saturn offers me. Now, I bring all this up because Saturn is in an opposition to Virgo and will be until February 2026 in varying degrees. So you have an opportunity to garnish wisdom, to understand divine disruption, to make wisdom from your history in some way. All right, let's see. Our first angel is, my hands are bothering me so much I can barely turn the cards over. Daniel, the angel of marriage. Pisces is your 7th house. Okay. Then we have Grace and Antoinette, which is about compassion and grace. Then we have Francesca and the Victory card. The shadow side of Virgo it's very process oriented, very analytical. And I say shadow side because it's analytical from a human perception that can sometimes be narrowing. So I feel like if we're talking about Daniel, the angel of marriage, the primary energy there is your history and relationships. Now we've got the Hermit talking about history, talking about Virgo specifically. I wonder if this is a time when you're going to start to put yourself as a priority over those around you. I think that might be important. We have the partnership card joining Daniel. We have Grace and Antoinette being joined by the protection card. We have Francesca being joined by the Wasp. And then we have Omega and the disruption card. I feel for my Virgos that this is really a very important time to almost reflect on whether or not you are I feel as if this is calling forth an evolved version of what's going on in your process. The partnership card and Daniel representing history in partnership with other human beings in relationship to contractual relationships. So this could be, you know, your business partner that you started something with, or your obviously your marriage partner, but there's other places where we have commitments to one another. Now, I think about Pisces in general, if that's being your seventh house, I wonder if maybe part of that history is that you've been the more practical one, the more the energy that's more getting things done. Okay. And now maybe you're a little tired. Maybe you want a new story, because Grace and Antoinette, I think, is really about you having compassion for yourself and feeling protected, because you're starting to get a little bit tired of maybe an old story. Maybe you've just been a workhorse, or you've been the responsible one, or you've been the one that remembered, you know, the chips and dip for the party, and everybody else around you gets to be a little loosey-goosey because they just inadvertently depend on you to make sure it gets done. Remember, Virgo is the house of service and enslavement, because I think through disruption, and I always think of this as divine disruption, there is victory. Now, this is where I'm going. It's not necessarily outside yourself. It could be very well inside of yourself. You have been contemplating your own personal needs in relation to everybody else. You know, this sign of service, of the three earth signs, this one is the one that's most giving to other people. This is the one that doesn't look for any sort of, I know Saturn is enduring and dutiful, but the executor of that duty is often the Virgo energy. It's the employee, the one that doesn't have the high position. It's the slave energy. So I think that you will have some sort of mercurial, you'll have some sort of integration within the way you're thinking. Thank you for the Mercury retrograde. And as we walk through this week, you're going to start to feel like, hey, you know what? I get to make myself a priority, because if I don't make myself a priority, who will? Okay. Now, Taurus is your ninth house. I just got that in my head, did the math well that way. And that means that your beliefs are going to start to shift and expand, because Jupiter's in the ninth house, where it naturally rules. So this contemplation of the journey, the history of where you've been, will truly bring you an opportunity to create a bridge. But again, there could potentially be disruption before the bridge is acknowledged. All right, let's go on to our Libras. I feel like talking about food, because normally when I do the live, everybody in the chat talks about food. Pizza, coffee, sweets. I haven't eaten yet today. Okay, Libra. Oh, we have the Hanged Man. There's a lot of illuminations going on here, and I want to offer this because we are in that 7-year where we are really sort of putting a little bit of a pause on things so that we can reflect. And if you look at the Hanged Man, there is nothing holding this character onto his cross, for lack of a better term. It's really a T. Maybe this refers to the T square with the nodes and Pluto. It very well could. Because again, these challenging aspects in astrology are not here to tank us. They're here to illuminate us and sort of bring an awareness as to, are we walking towards our happiness, or are we inadvertently in some sort of big machine where we think we're happy? Because when we're in a situation where we make just enough money to pay our bills, and then we go and we have fun, we run up our credit cards, and then we go back to those mindless jobs just to pay the minimums, we get into a cycle that we can't get out of, that dims us from being able to see our creation, seeing our abilities. Now, Libra, you're partnership oriented. So this might have a lot to do with any sort of way you've deferred or not claimed your own sense of self. Let's see. Our first angel Libra is Crystal. The second is Rochelle. the third is Isaiah, and the final is Asher. As the South Node goes into Libra, and it will hit my Mars and hit my Sun, I really am not at all worried about erosion or worried about loss. I'm actually thinking it's about my ego, and where I can identify some of my motivations based on a platform that doesn't really serve the truth. So when I've manifested or when I've endeavored something so other people would, like I'll show you kind of energy, it doesn't usually work out very well. And I think there may be a little something here that's illuminating, because these red tights right now make me feel like my base chakra. The blue tunic is making me feel like my voice. And now I have this illumination from God. And with Libra being a partnership oriented sign, you could inadvertently give up your power for the sake of the greater good, or for the sake of your security, to feel, a sense of connectedness. And inadvertently, you're not connecting to the beauty within. So Crystal is saying, have faith and hope. And there's more on the horizon. And then we have the forgiveness card. Rochelle is asking you to honor your heart. And then we have the risk card joining that. Isaiah is talking about new beginnings. And then there's the focus card. And then we have Azure and the novice. I really have come to embrace the idea that when something goes wonky in my life, there's something beautiful coming around the bend, and it doesn't happen effortlessly. I am absolutely, I feel the wonkiness, but I want to say this because this is what I've been able to garnish as a Libra sun. I've been able to look at this as a reconciliation. It's almost as if I see where something challenging is now potentially bringing in something good, and I stretch to feel for it when I can't see it. So a pause, a stopping, and giving yourself an opportunity to turn things upside down. Now, your co-ruling, or Venus, your ruling planet, co-rules Taurus. And Taurus is going through a Uranus transit where things are being turned upside down. Taurus is your 8th house of transformation, of that deep psychological imprint. So now, Libra, this is an opportunity to truly risk betting on your heart. And part of that is stopping long enough to figure out what is in your heart, because it's time to focus on new things. And I want to offer this because the new things are not necessarily having to throw the old things out. Again, there feels like there can be an incorporation and integration, because Azure is saying your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. And the novice is a new beginning, but it's skill without practice. And that skill may be this very hanged man, being able to stop long enough and to feel safe enough about your security, your financial well-being, your material well-being, so that spirit can give you an inspiration that leads to even more than you could have imagined. So this is very exciting. All right, on to our Scorpios. Rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. I swear Laguna is probably noisier than New York City. I don't think they can drive as fast through New York. Do you hear the fire alarm, or whatever, the car alarm that nobody pays attention to? It's just annoying. All right, Scorpio, here we go. Oh, I love it. This is the 9 of Cups. This is such a yummy, warm, fun energy, because this character is celebrating himself. He has worked hard to line those cups up. He has, he sits in complete self-satisfaction for his creation. Let's see where we're going. Because with the South Node traversing your first house, this could be where you have really started to claim your power, to claim the inherent intensity and rich, savory energy that Scorpio is. I know I seem like kind of a little wonky, but I think Pluto and Saturn are maybe my 2 favorite planets. Do I experience their challenges, and do I, get frustrated. Yeah, but boy, on the backside, I feel like they give the best rewards, not Jupiter. Jupiter makes me want to eat a lot of cookies. Okay. The Jupiter transit over my ascendant has made me a totally sweets. Like I can eat a whole box of double chocolate dark Milanos. Okay. A whole box or bag, I should say, all at once. And if I'm really being good, I eat it in 2 days. That's 7 cookies in a row. 8 on a good day. Okay. Scorpio. I share too much. The first angel is Azure. Your desired outcome will happen in the near future. The second is Teresa. Don't worry. Be happy because Omega's here with victory. And Bethany's there for self-care. This is where I was going. I think that you've really, I think that the South Node has been offering you much more than we would see on the surface of it when we think of it as loss or erosion or the tail of the dragon. Here we key into the spiritual sides of your Plutonian energy, your Martian energy. Being brave in looking at where maybe you've been getting in your own way or where you've been fixed to the point where, you know, you're driving yourself crazy, because wherever's happening is going to happen in a good way, because there's movement happening. Azure's offering movement, and movement that's moving here to bring you something that you want. Teresa's being joined by the fire fairy. Omega's being joined by the Queen, and the Grail Knight is joining Bethany. This could very well be about romance, and it could very well be that you have been able to redefine what is important to you. Because at certain ages, we're not as invested in romance as we are in feeling good about what we're building. You know, Scorpio is a builder. Rules billionaires, not small money, big money. It rules intimacy. It rules the word occult. But what the occult is the magical elements that source energy has put around this planet. And Scorpio knows how to use them. Scorpio knows how to use them as tools to divine all of that abundance, because now is an opportunity. There's movement, something. Your desired outcome is happening in the very near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. Let's think about this too. You've been on the Scorpio Taurus axis of eclipses. So this is about to happen, could happen at any time. We just had some Scorpio eclipse energy bringing a culmination, if I recall, at 14 degrees. It was a lunar eclipse. That ending could very well bring in the new beginning, because it's time to have a positive attitude and not worry, because the Queen is about a receptive energy. Omega is about victory. If you are of childbearing years and you're trying to get pregnant, think about the soul of the baby, and the chart of the baby may not want to come in with some of the challenging aspects, but will in no short time, because this feels very powerful to me in receiving something from the universe. Now we have the Grail Knight, which is about romance, and this is about self-care. So this is about you seeking the sacred to continue to feel this sense of self-satisfaction. Now, let's talk a little bit about this grand square, because the South Node is going to get triggered by this grand fixed square. So as you have an awareness and a willingness to see where your patterned imprint is and where the evolved version of you is, you may feel a great sense of satisfaction in the bridging of those two things. So you don't have to necessarily give up who and what you've been, but rather incorporating new dynamics, which create movement, which open you up to feeling more a sense of your sacred self, which could very well bring in some romance or fluff up the romance you're already in. All right, let's go. Let's go on to our Sages. All right. We have the Two of Wands. Now, the Wands would rule Sagittarius as a fire sign. I see this particular card as this man has created a certain amount of what he wants. It's the wand behind him that's anchored into the cement foundation of his world, but he has other things he wants to create. He holds that vision of that in one hand, and the wand in order to create it with another. So this is very much about the beginning of something. It's not in the 3D world yet. Our first angel is Mystique. The second is Omega. The third is Fiona. And the final is Daniel. Wow. I think there's a lot going to happen with Venus going into Leo and Mars even. I mean, we're going to have that fixed square, but we're also going to have see romance and all sorts of things happen. All right, Sagittarius, let's see. Mystique is being joined by the birth and the rebirth card. Omega is being joined by Merlin. Fiona is being joined by the disruption card. And Daniel is being joined by the burden card. This is very interesting to me because when I look at this, it feels very much as if you're in some sort of process. And I want to offer it this way because Daniel, while he talks about marriage, and I don't know if I necessarily think this is about an intimate partner, it may be about your historic relationships. Sagittarius is a mutable sign. Sagittarius is very loving and very open. Lucky. It's digging up my couch. I'm sorry. Because I see Mystique, a unicorn coming out of the dark and into the light. There is a rebirth for my Sagittarians. Then I see another Omega is another unicorn. This one's white. Now she's roaring in victory. And part of this is because of this, the balance that has come in. And I think the balance is through, there's a sense of justice and that comes with this. And I think part of that justice is you being able to hold on to what was while you look to the future at the same time. Because Fiona is saying now that you've asked God and the angels for help, I think this light around her head and the disruption card is an epiphany that Sagittarius has. And in some respects, while there is a feeling of, how do I want to phrase this? A feeling of staying connected and still going your own way. So, because Daniel, the angel of marriage, makes me feel as if I'm staying connected, but the burden makes me feel as if I'm starting to let go of something, or I'm starting to rebirth something. And potentially, there are still dynamics that are playing to the older story. Or if this is about the relationships with the people that are close to you, you may recognize that while you're willing to shift and change, others are not. And you'll just maybe have to do a bygones. You know, they are who they are. And that's where the burden comes in, because there could be a slight sense of frustration that I remember before I used to actually pay attention to astrology, I would say you could just make a different choice and a different outcome would happen. I didn't realize that sometimes fixed signs, they don't make a different choice. And with this fixed grand square and the tensions that will be created, not just this week, but throughout this rest of this year, you could come up against some of that. So here's really keeping yourself moving towards where you like to go, new lands, new territories. And as the focus is on you, I think it'll offer you a new birth in the way you're perceiving things, because your ruling planet's involved in all of this, Jupiter. So sometimes, you know, we see an easier road to happiness than others do. And no matter how many times we offer them that road, they just can't get on it, because they're like, no, let me show you, this happened before, and this happened before, and this happened before. And you're like, okay, it all happened before, but this can happen now. That's the challenge of the fixed signs. All right, my goats, here we go. Capricorn, we have the Justice card. This is very Libran, very balanced, very regal in that purple color. That makes me feel like I'm playing to some of my higher chakra points here. Let's look and see. Because the sword here, which kind of blends into that pillar, makes me feel as if the sword and the pillar have become one, and the justice comes because I'm more aware of my thoughts and I'm wanting to be balanced within them. Balance is not about holding a positive thought all the time. It's about an ease and flow as you walk through fears occasionally, or more often these days. Okay, Capricorn, our first angel is Celeste. The second is Maya. The third is Desiree. And the final is Opal. Celeste is being joined by the horse. Maya is being joined by the perception card. Desiree is being joined by the burden card. And Opal is being joined by the birth and rebirth card. As Pluto is retrograding back into Capricorn, we'll end up being in the late degrees of Capricorn in June and throughout the rest of the year. You may find, even if you're not, your personal planets and points aren't in those late degrees, having Pluto coming back into your house, especially, let's say from 15 to 30 or 15 to the 29th degree, even though that's a very wide, or Pluto, even though it's a small planet, it's a powerful planet. And I feel as if this is something you're stretching for. You're stretching for balance. You're stretching for balance in your thought. You're defaulting to some of the obligatory energies that others expect of you. You're aware of them, and yet at the same time, you don't want to necessarily purport those anymore, because Celeste is always, for me, a shift in the way I'm thinking. Now, many of you could be getting new jobs or actually moving to new homes, but you can put me anywhere on the planet. I think a certain way, and I'm going to take my actions based on those beliefs. Now we see the horse. This is very Sagittarian to me right now. It makes me feel as if I'm shifting my core beliefs. I'm opening up. I'm getting a little bit away from the human structures of what's been expected, what's been traditional, what's been historic, because a lot of tradition and history is out of balance. And now I'm being a little bit more celebratory, or aware of my education, aware of my perceptions. I don't want to say celebratory, that wasn't correct, because there is a little bit of a challenge coming here from the angels, asking you to give yourself enough time to anchor in what you have learned about your new perceptions. It's not a time to run out and to try to take action, because as Pluto goes back in to your house, it's going to further illuminate those deep psychological imprints that aren't necessarily going away. It's very much that chalkboard. It's only clean once. When you write on it, you can erase it. It's still going to have that dust on it. So this is really about affording yourself a little bit of grace while you get your equilibrium, because here you are absolutely being offered the birth and the rebirth card. That's Pluto, and God is really watching over you. So I want to offer it this way. If you fall prey to some of the more challenging dynamics of Capricorn, and you start to fear things, or you start to feel depressed that things aren't moving, or history is repeating itself, this is really an opportunity to exercise your new beliefs, to anchor them in through an experience. And that experience may feel a little challenging at first, but on the other side of it, it will feel very fruitful. So a few weeks ago, I had an issue with a plumber. Okay. I felt like the kid, I felt honestly like I wasn't cute enough, and the job wasn't making him enough money for it to be a priority. And yet I needed my shower head fixed. So my Aries rising normally would get a little bit assertive to get his butt over here and fix it. But you know what? I've learned a few things lately. So I didn't do that. I didn't get assertive. I was just intentional, and I kept following up and then being very aware of my joyful tone as he ignored my call or whatever. When he walked through the door and he actually came to fix things, I felt some sort of epiphany come over me. I felt a shift in me. I didn't even think about how annoyed I'd been with him. I was too busy moving forward. And in doing so, I completely recalibrated the whole dynamic of the situation. And when he walked out of my house, he's like, I'm going to have to come back to you for astrology. And I'm like, yeah, when Venus goes into Leo, you will. and I charge the big bucks. So I get my money back from the plumber. But my point is this, is I was triumphant over the situation. So Capricorn, I believe you're going to get experiences that offer you a real anchoring in of your own evolution as you witness yourself experience something and then behave in your evolved version of yourself, the part of yourself that is more aware and making choices about how you want to feel versus feeling that other people have an expectation that you must fulfill. Okay, let's go on to our Aquarius, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. If you have a stellium in Aquarius, man, that I can only imagine how cool that would be. Like you'd be like a rocket scientist or total huge influencer or something. I don't know. I'm just musing. Oh, there's the Page of Swords. Very interesting because Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. And I feel like this is the beginning of new thought. And I'm always very keen on paying attention to how these characters are the colors that the artist has chosen, because these are ancient depictions. And these red boots make me feel as if there is a beginning of an inspired new thought where I'm going to take, which is the platform with which I'm going to take my steps upon. Let's look and see. So our first angel is Aurora for my Aquariuses. The second is Serena. The third is Yvonne. And the final is Chantal. So Leo is your 7th house, Aquarius rising. So that means that Mars and Venus are moving into that house over the next, Mars is going in there very shortly, and Venus will spend 4 months in your 7th house. So let's see what happens here. Because Aurora is being joined by Merlin, Serena's being joined by the Burden card, Yvonne's being joined by the Communications card, and Chantal is being joined by the Fear card. Okay, I want to offer it this way. We know that Aquarius rules the nervous system, and that there can be associated with Aquarius a sense of feeling anxious or feeling awkward or feeling sort of just out of alignment with the people around me. I believe that you have an opportunity to start to recalibrate that thought. And I feel as if here, Aurora says you're flying high right now, don't descend. And then Merlin is offering balance. And I want to say it this way, because as Aquarius rules science, then it also rules the natural process of experimentation. And oftentimes experiments don't always show proof of anything. It's a journey, because I feel as if right now the burden is to feel serene, because there is a vulnerability being required in your communication to yourself about the possibilities of what you want to experience, regardless of whether, the genre, although I tend to think it has more to do with your 7th house energy, because Chantal rules romance. And then there's the Fear card. And I want to offer it this way, because I saw this as face everything and rise. False evidence appearing real. Now, by nature, Aquarius has, experiences that are really kind of unusual and unexpected. So what I think is going on this week is that there's the potential that the Mercury turning direct is now bringing in a sense of balance and alchemy for you to move forward. You're still kind of challenged, feeling calm about things, but you have a more conscious awareness that your self-talk is also co-creating. So there's a vulnerability to that awareness. And as you focus on the type of love that you want, I feel as if fear is really here more playing back to the feelings of Merlin. This is where the balance comes in, because I will very much tell you this: when a person starts to meet the person that they're really, really excited about, fear gets stoked. You don't go sailing off into the sunset like the end of the romantic comedy. You actually start a whole journey of vulnerability to that person and your interest and desire for them to have desire for you. So this is really kind of about Aquarius allowing themselves this little journey of flexibility and allowing new thoughts to come in and be inspired. We're talking about a grand fixed square, and you're part of it. Your Pluto's in your house. All the elements in this square are like sitting in the middle seat of an airliner. You're going somewhere, but it feels a little tight. You're like vying for position to put your arms down. And right now, I feel like this is more about calling forth the ease as you're aware of your thoughts, and then allowing your natural sort of innovative way of being to invent new dynamics within your core belief system about love. Okay, that's what I got. Let's go on to our Pisces. Pisces, your tarot card is the Eight of Cups. Wow, this is a really powerful card. And having Saturn traversing your first house, Saturn is really asking Pisces to let the fog clear, to take off the rose-colored glasses and get to lens crafters and get a proper prescription. Saturn is asking Pisces to think about sustainable things. What do you want for over the long haul? Because I will reward you. So this is a card that really reflects that things can be okay and still not being satisfying. And those are sometimes the most difficult ones for the human to claim their happiness through, because the outside world applauds whatever looks good over there, but it may not necessarily feel aligned for you on the interior. Let's go and see what the angels have to say. We have that new moon coming up, and that new moon, could be the seeds that you're planting for an emotional journey, not necessarily walking away from a situation, but being more emotionally brave. Looking at your participation, where am I giving up my power? Our first angel is Serena. The second is Fiona. The third is Seraphina. And the final is Astera. All right, joining Merlin's in the foundational position, joining Serena. Fiona is in the being joined by the Wasp. Seraphina is being joined by the Queen. And Astera is being joined by the Dog. I very much think, my Pisces, that you're going to be reviewing your interpersonal relationships, not just your intimate relationships, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your family, your relationship, how you do relationships. Because this, to me, this Serena is about money, and absolutely about money, always about money. Merlin is also about money. But here what we see is that the resources that you may need, the security you may need, come from a sense of ease and a sense of trusting your inherent qualities of your connection to the divine. I personally don't experience ease like effortlessly, but I absolutely have a very deep rooted belief that when I'm aligned to my abundance, abundance shows up. So when things start to feel tight, I realize what's going on with me. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I need to do my laundry and I really want to get it done. So somewhere in my energy field, I'm blocking people from taking up time. There's a journey. And I think this may be an interior journey with Saturn going through your first house, because the Wasp is about being pissed off, and Fiona is about asking God and the angels for help and being open to receiving it. That reception is an epiphany. We are all co-creators. And the challenging thing about Pisces is you're so mutable that you will inadvertently give your power up or give your opinion up or give up your needs and wants because the other person is more dominant than you are. And in order to keep their love, you feel that that is the expectation they have. Now it's about learning how to receive. Seraphina is offering a happy change to your family. And the queen is about reception. It's knowing this guy is bringing her what she needs, this glass of wine, her drink. And I feel as if with my Pisces, part of this situation, this Eight of Cups is really walking away from what doesn't make you feel genuinely loved and cherished and appreciated and you know, a valuable member of whatever this interaction with others is, because Astera is asking you to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires and not to compromise. And the dog is asking for love and loyalty and sincerity within that. And so this dynamic of Saturn going through your first house and will go through your first house for till 2026, February 2026. Saturn's not trying to hurt you. Saturn's not trying to depress you. Saturn's trying to remove the fog. So I think that this may be a new moon where you start to really examine your personal value. It's a Taurus new moon, how you are being fed and fueled in your partnerships, in your interactions with others. And I think it's a call to further examine what is authentic to you. And I think that that is sort of, if we think about right now, the dynamics going on between Pluto and Mars and this and the nodes, the fixed square, well, it's not, you know, there's no focal point in Pisces. Saturn there is also, there's a contributing factor to all these feelings. So it feels as if, let me think for a quick second for Pisces. First house, Pisces, second. Okay, so your third house is Taurus. So third house, that means your ninth house, and then your sixth and your 12th house are all fixed energies. So I kind of want to offer that as you're aware of these dynamics, then you're more willing to sit back and put yourself in the equation. Am I getting my needs met? Am I feeling a sense of loyalty coming towards me? Am I feeling cherished? And I think that's where you'll start to make decisions based on something and start to move a new story forward. All right, let's go on to our final sign, our Aries. We're experiencing the very last few degrees of Jupiter in Aries. Won't happen again for 12 years. All righty. Our tarot card is the Six of Swords. This is a card of things easing up. It has a mercurial energy to it. We're seeing this woman and child. The woman appears to still be in sorrow, but the man can see above it. He's willing to look through what the problems are in order to take them into new energy, new territory, new emotional ways of being. Let's see what this is for Aries. Because, you know, you've had a square from Pluto for a long time. I've had Pluto squaring my ascendant forever. And while it won't be exact, it's going to get within a degree again. Yay. Archangel Uriel is dealing with anger and frustration. Here's Crystal saying there's more on the horizon that you can't see. Celeste is there offering a shift, and there's patience. So Aries, you know, I really believe you've learned so much in 2022 as your ruling planet was spending 7 months in the house of interaction with others, your siblings, your teammates, your workmates, how you think, how you process things, what you speak about, and how you teach others through that conversation. And I think you're moving into calmer waters. And while your ruling planet is going into an opposition with Pluto, you have to remember they're friends. They both co-rule Scorpio. So what's happening right now is Pluto is a little Yoda, and you, Mars, are a little bit Luke Skywalker. Just let me go kill the bad guy. Just let me go kill the bad guy. And Yoda's like, whoa. Pluto's like, whoa. We got to get down to your base psychology. Otherwise, the bad guy's going to get you through your fears. So There's balance with Archangel Uriel or your hot-headedness. Crystal is being joined by the Truth card. Celeste is being joined by the Joy card. And Patience is being joined by the Cat. I think this is really powerful because, you know, I really do believe that in a sense of sometimes, you know, they say that anger is a motivator. Okay. It's the blaming anger that gets to be erosive. So here, I think you're balancing out your anger. I actually feel that myself personally. I feel like the Pluto squares have been asking me how much time I spend chewing on the injustices of my life. Merlin rules justice. So I feel as if I'm moving beyond those things. Will I always know the imprint and feel the imprint on some level? Yeah, but does it serve me? There we go, Aries. Crystal is saying have faith and hope there's more on the horizon because you're willing to look at the deeper truth, and you always have been, as is Pluto. And you're starting to claim yourself. You're like, you know what? I don't have time for this anymore. I'm tired of being pissed off. I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of being resentful. They are what they are. And I may be perfectly right. I may have every reason in the world to feel this way, but for me now, I'm going to move. I'm going to shift the way I'm thinking, and I'm going to claim my joy, and not in a corny way. I'm just going to do what makes me happy. And thank God I'm an Aries. I'm willing to go my own path, because here you've really learned to observe your own behavior. And now you're willing to draw your own story. You know, the difference between dogs and cats is literally even a cat, even a house cat. If it hates you, it'll find a way out of your house and it'll run away. It'll like go where it's appreciated and loved. The dog will just stick around and unfortunately let you treat it, you know, a little bit, you know, dismissively. I think that this is about you. I think that you're now that little bit of a cat that's saying, you know what? I'm a fire sign. I got to take care of me. I've got to be authentic to me. And while, you know, I'd like to be able to have my story, you know, rectified, whatever the case is, if it's not reconcilable, I'm moving on. I'm out. See you later. Because the truth is, I feel that there's so much more that Aries has to give. And I think they know it too. And that's why I think you've worked super hard to sort of tame some of those edges. We don't want to shave off those edges. We need those knives to cut through things, right? Mars rules knives. But you have generously, surgically looked at your own stuff. And now I think you've rewritten your belief system. Jupiter's offered you expansion of yourself to grow, to incorporate what has appeared to be the more challenging dynamics and transform them into the hero, you know, into the pioneer. Because you got to be a little bit outside the box, and you got to, and that'll ruffle feathers in order to break new ground. So that's it for this week. It's a big week. Lots of stuff going on. We're going to feel that shift of Jupiter moving into Taurus really, you know, I think pretty significantly. And again, I want to offer this just on a side note. Jupiter, the planet of expansion, is moving into Taurus, the house that rules food. You may go on a munch fest. You may just be like, I want this, I want to eat that, I want to eat this, I want to eat that. I think I've been doing that myself. And anyway, it's just a little side note. All right, everybody, I will be back next week. That will be, I believe, the 21st of May, live, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Small Wildflowers will be here with us, and we'll be doing our readings live again. So enjoy Mother's Day. Enjoy the week. I'm not promising anything, but I've got a few little plans for videos, but you know me, I'm not making any promises. Please like, please subscribe, please share, please comment. I appreciate all of you. Peace out.